Alrighty, so all of these CONCACAF Champions Cup first leg round of 16 match involving MLS team is in the books, and I gotta say, it was almost a disastrous first leg in the round of 16 for all these MLS team involving in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Not only we saw one team losing in the first leg, but we didn't see an MLS team winning against Liga MX's opponent at home, where that is pretty much almost a must if you see these MLS team have any chance to move on into the next round against a Liga MX opponent, because we know that whenever an MLS team goes to Mexico, they usually don't return with a win. But the one game that I thought an MLS team should surely walk away with an easy win and don't even have to worry about the second leg in the round of 16, boy, they definitely had some trouble, and we'll definitely talk about that game and how they definitely got left off the hook in a big way in that game. But first of all, we're gonna first talk about the one team that did lose in the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup in the round of 16 that involved MLS team, and that of course is the LA Galaxy. And there's got to be a lot of concern if you're a Galaxy fan. And I know obviously injuries has been a big part of the struggle that they have so far in the beginning of the season, and not to mention in terms of some of the sales that they're pretty much forced to because they're cap crunch, and this is probably the cup tax that they're basically paying heading into this season. But that being said, I mean, there's got to be a lot of concern not only with the defense of this team, but also the attack of this team of how toothless it's been so far this season. We're now 3 games into the season for the Galaxy in all competition, and they've have only scored 1 goal so far this season. Now, early on, Galaxy had most of the possession early. The first shot of the game did see Peck puts it right to Carvajal. McCarthy then denied Cruz from close range. I gotta say, McCarthy, he of course got his number one spot back. I wouldn't be surprised. There could be maybe a goalkeeping controversy with the Galaxy. I mean, I know Mikovic has done relatively well for the Galaxy, but McCarthy definitely he had something to prove in this game. He wants to get that number one spot back in this game, and he probably was one of the big reasons why this was not uglier than it needed to be, and at least keep the Galaxy in heading into the second leg against Herediano. But in the 60-minute, Carvajal would deny Peck from long range, as both of these teams were getting some good chance early to score the opener. There was a huge shout for a penalty from the Herediano fans not given, and then Peck would puts it high from long range in the 22nd minute. This was probably the best game that Gabriel Peck has played for the Galaxy so far this season. And again, a lot is basically fault on him, with 2 of the 3 killer P's not available. At least for the first couple of months of the season, a lot has to fall for him, and especially with other talent on the attack. It needs to fall on him. You can definitely see that he's definitely maybe at times pressing a little bit too much, and that he is going to be a guy that the Galaxy are really hoping that he is going to be that guy to kind of just keep the ship flow until they get some of those players that is currently out with injuries, especially the attacking talent, the player out on injury back, because if he can't produce, then yeah, this Galaxy team is not going to go so far on the attack, and it's not surprised that he's not producing the way that this Galaxy team really need to. The shots were 3-1 for the Galaxy early up to this point. Peck would then hits it right to Carvajal as the flag went up, so that one wouldn't have counted if it goes in. But there's no doubt the Galaxy are getting some golden opportunity. But the question is, can they put one of these chances in? Because if there's one thing we know about Herediano, and especially Real Salt Lake found out the hard way, yeah, if you keep this team in the game, they're gonna punish you. Aguilar would then hit it wide from close before there was a shout for a handball not given to Herediano. Roman then puts it wide from close range. I thought the Galaxy was having problem in terms of defending corner. This was a big issue for them last season as well. It kind of was not so much of an issue. It feels like they figure it out as the season goes along. But in this game, yeah, it feels like habit kind of came back from them where they were struggling to defend corners. Carvajal then denied Ramos from close. It was some end-to-end stuff as both of these teams was pressing for the opener late in the first half. Peck puts it wide on the curling shot in the second minute. I think that shot just kind of sums up the season for Gabriel Peck. Again, he needs to step up because he is the guy that they heavily rely on the attack, and if he can't do so, again, this is kind of the reason why this Galaxy attack has been in a funk. Now, we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, we already had some small coming together between both of these teams. So, yeah, both of these teams definitely waste no time to kind of had a small coming together. There was a shout for a penalty from Herediano that was not given once again. McCarthy then denied Roman from close range, and this is when Herediano really took over this game. It not only was a slow start for the Galaxy, but yeah, whatever Herediano, their head coach, said heading into the second half, it definitely worked in a big way. And whatever Greg Venny said in the halftime locker room message, it definitely did not work out because Herediano was putting some big sustained pressure to press for the opening goal. And they probably would have got the opening goal if McCarthy didn't absolutely rob Alan Cruz on a 1v1. I mean, yeah, Alan Cruz, the former Cincy, man, he was definitely on point in this game. And yeah, I even wrote McCarthy's the only reason why this is 0-0. And he's definitely having a vendetta game again. You know, he's probably very frustrated that he doesn't get he lose out his number one spot during the beginning of the season to Niko Mikovic, and he's having a vendetta game trying to win his number one spot back. But unfortunately, in the 66th minute, eventually the Galaxy do concede a goal, and this was coming. I mean, Herediano was putting a lot of pressure. As in the 66th minute, Aguilar would score from Krios to give Herediano a 1-0 lead. The momentum was all with the hosts up to this point, and the Galaxy. This is where, yeah, they need to find some control back into this game and just gotta ride out the pressure because the last thing you want is to get this out this game even more uglier. Remember, MLS team losing to Herediano on the road. That's not a unfamiliar tale. Remember a couple of years when Atlanta United lost to Herediano in the first leg. They lost like 3-1 in that game. Now, eventually, Atlanta did win in the second leg to move on, and that's what the Galaxy would need to do. But yeah, Herediano has had histories when it comes to beating MLS team, and we even saw it even in the last round where they were able to beat Real Salt Lake as well. Carvajal then denied Royce from close in the 69th minute. Yeah, it's been a very brutal start to the season for Marco Royce. Something tells me he's definitely coked heading into the season. Bravo would then whiffs an attempt from close range, and then Cruz would puts it wide from long range. And the Galaxy are really lucky the fact that this is still 1-0 because Herediano could have easily made it 2 or 3-0 if they were a little bit more clinical. And also John McCarthy was is not on his game tonight. But in the 83rd minute, there was more coming together as Alde and Amador kind of had some choice words there. So yeah, again, what's kind of interesting is that we saw more coming together in this game compared to the other two games involving MLS team and Liga MX aside. Because anytime when MLS team face against Liga MX opponent, you always see like a coming together in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but that wasn't kind of the case. I mean, this was the game where it really kind of got spicy as the game goes along. But there was no doubt that as the time winds down, the Galaxy was pressing late for the equalizer. It's almost like Herediano was just trying to make sure the Galaxy doesn't score that elusive away goal. Carvajal then denied Peck in the near post, and then Fagundes would hit it right to Carvajal in the 5th minute of stoppage time. And in the end, Herediano, they did it again. They beat an MLS team in the first leg. They win 1-0 against the defending MLS Cup champion, that is the LA Galaxy. The shots in this one, 10 shots for the 8 that the Galaxy had, 4 shots on goal for the 5 that Herediano has, 5 shots off target for the 2 that the Galaxy had, 2 shots that was blocked for the none that Herediano has, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to the 37% possession that Herediano had in this game. So there's no doubt the Galaxy, they got some work to do returning home, and they need to get this attack out get going because yeah, I mean in this game, like I said, they were very lucky. The fact that this was only 1-0. This could have been easily 2 or 3-0, and there would be a mountain to climb for them heading into the second leg. But the good news is it's only 1-0. They can still get themselves regroup heading into the second leg. But there's no doubt they have to play better than this. And again, injuries I know has really hit this team hard. But that's still no excuse in terms of them not be able to beat the likes of Herediano. I mean, I know Herediano also is a really good team, especially they're at the top of the Costa Rican league. But still, you would expect an MLS team able to move on from them, and we'll see whether or not the Galaxy can bounce back heading into the second leg playing at home because they're going to be the only MLS team that is able to play at home at least in the second leg that is not named the Columbus Crew. Now, moving on to the next match. So this match between the Sounders and Cruz Azul, there was a lot of anticipation in terms of this match, and unfortunately, it's kind of a bit of a dull game, which Cruz Azul wouldn't mind because that's exactly what they wanted. And again, anytime when an MLS team is playing in the first leg at home, it is so important that they have to win that because we've seen it so many times when MLS team going down to Mexico, not getting the result that they needed, and that could come back to haunt the Sounders, not getting the result that they needed. That now they pretty much will have to either get a win or even a score draw to move on into the next round against Cruz Azul. Now, early on in the first half, just want to mention there was definitely a lot of Cruz Azul fans in the stands. There was a lot of blue inside Lumen Field. You can even hear the Azul chant in the beginning, probably even louder than the Sounders chant that is. But there was no doubt that Cruz Azul started well early on. Seattle was still trying to get a foothold into this game. The first shot of the game did see Hernandez heads it wide in the 10th minute. There was a shout for a handball for the Sounders that was not given. By the way, one of the exciting thing I was looking forward to this match is that are we going to see a couple of former MLS players that are going to be playing for Cruz Azul, because there's some high profile former MLS player that play for Cruz Azul right now. Mateus Bogusz is one of them. He did play in this one and he didn't really look that good throughout this game. But the other big name is Giorgio Yakimakis, who he actually did not play in this game. I think he's probably suffering an injury. That's why he's not playing. But yeah, this was kind of a fascinating event, seeing that with MLS teams, seems like they're selling some big talent to Liga MX, which again, I don't know if that's a good thing. If you want to still consider to be a league trying to close on the gap of Liga MX when you're literally selling your best talented player to that respective league. But I guess money basically talk. And again, those transfer that both LAFC and Atlanta United did to sell their best player, it's understandable because those money are just too hard to pass on. There was a shout for a handball that was not given to Cruz Azul after Bogusz actually struck the post on the free kick. They're thinking that there was a handball on the wall. Usually when that happens, I usually don't see handball call on those. It has to be just something absolutely egregious for the referee to call handball when the ball struck to the wall there. But the shots was still only 2-1 for Cruz Azul 28 minutes in. Yeah, it was not a fun game to watch if you're a neutral. And keep in mind, I was watching this game and the Vancouver versus Riot game at the same time, as both of these games was happening at the same time, and I was probably keeping more track of the other game because of how dull this game, and there was really not much notes I can really take put on the board and report from this game because of how dull at times this game was. There was a shout for a handball not given to Cruz Azul before in the 43rd minute. Morris would head to just wide, as that was really by far the best chance the Sounders had. I mean, the Sounders had not a lot of chance in the beginning, and we do head to halftime, unsurprisingly scoreless between both of these teams. And in the second half, Nuhu almost scored his second career goal for the Sounders as he struck the post on the header. I mean, that would be incredible. The fact that Nuhu just one game fresh off of that unfortunate own goal that he scored against RSL over the weekend. I mean, how much of that would be a big redemption story of him scoring in this game, but unfortunately was denied by the post. The Sounders were definitely getting some chances early as they were pushing for the lead, and it looked like they got it in the 50th minute as Pedro de la Vega put the ball into the back of the net, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed. It was offside on the development play. I think it was Morris the one was in an offside position. It was very, very close, but I think he was just leaning in an offside position, so the goal didn't count. There was no doubt that the Sounders started the better side. They continued to press for the opening goal. And the post would deny Morris as he was in on goal there in the 70th minute. Again, the Sounders were getting some really good chances up to this point, and these good chances will they be regret if they don't move on in the second and get a result down in Mexico. But there was no doubt that, like I said, the Sounders, they can feel it, but can they finally score that crucial opener? Well, Rodon tried to do so, but he puts it wide from close range. Seems like Cruz Azul is playing for a 0-0 draw and take their chances back to Mexico, as you usually see with the Liga MX team playing the first leg on the road. They're going to try to keep it tight so that they can have a chance heading back to Mexico, which is a place that pretty much a lot of Liga MX team is able get the better over MLS team. Gutierrez then hits it right to Fry in the 79th minute before Vargas hits it right to Mayer. And then in the 90th minute, Gutierrez would hits it right to Fry again. But yeah, in the end, it ends in a scoreless draw. It was a bit of a dull kind of game, kind of your typical two-legged affair where usually sometime in these two-legged affairs, especially a highly anticipated two-legged affair, that it's going to end in a 0-0 draw. Shots in this one, 8 shots for the 7 that Cruz Azul has, 2 shots on goal for the 1 that the Sounders had, 2 shots off target for the 1 that Cruz Azul has, 4 shots that was blocked for the 3 that the Sounders had, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession the Sounders has in this game. So there's no doubt that, yeah, the Sounders, they now need to get a resort down in Mexico. And, the good thing I will say about the Sounders is that they have done it before. They have been able to get resort down in Mexico. I mean, if they can just repeat what they did last time when they play against Pumas at the Estadio Universidad with a 2-2 draw, then they will move on into the next round because the away goal. But there's no doubt that I think Brian Schmidt's team will be very disappointed that they didn't get a result. Especially they were very unlucky too in this game. They had some good chances to get at least a 1 or 2 nothing lead heading into the next leg, but there's no doubt that it's all for them to do. And at least from what I've seen in this game, there are some promise that maybe Cruz Azul isn't as good as what we think he is. I think they're currently like ninth in the standing. They're not doing spectacular in their standards so far in their Clausura season, but there's no doubt that again, anytime when an MLS team go on the road, it doesn't matter how impressive that they are at home. When they're playing on the road, going down to Mexico to face against Liga MX's opponent, it just feels like it's a complete different story. And again, I just had to once again reiterate how big of a missed opportunity it is for these MLS teams to not be able to win their home leg so that they can now really put the pressure on the Liga MX down in Mexico to get a win. But that being said, now I'm going to switch board and look at the last two games to finish off this review of the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup round of 16 matchup involving MLS team. So moving on in the next game, and speaking of missed opportunity for MLS team facing against a Liga MX's opponent, that would be the case for the Vancouver Whitecaps in this game against Rayados. And I gotta say, they actually play much better than I thought when they faced against Rayados. I thought Rayados was gonna absolutely run over the Whitecaps in this one. But that being said, one thing I talked about Jasper Sorensen's side in the game against Saprissa, I mentioned how despite they won that second leg to move on to the next round, missed opportunity was going to be one thing that they have to fix if they have any chance to move on against Rayados. Guess what happened in this game? Yeah, it's missed opportunity, and even though they did set themselves at least in a better position than it could have been heading in the last couple of minutes where it looked like they were on verge of losing 1-0 in this game against Rayados. You got to say that they absolutely should have won this game. The Whitecaps, they should have at least scored more than the 1 goals that they had, and again, these missed opportunity. We'll see whether or not that's going to come back, and probably most likely is going to come back to haunt the Whitecaps when they will be going down to Mexico and facing against a Rayado side that not a lot of team have been able to go down to Mexico and at Rayado's home to get a resort. But in the first half, Rayados controlled the possession early as the Whitecaps were elected to sit back and counter. There was some more injury concern as Jaden Nelson had to be subbed off with an injury as Ali Ahmed replaced him. I don't think he looked that injured to a point where maybe he should be available doing this weekend because that would be another blow for the Whitecaps. I mean, they already lost Adekube, but which I think actually he did return in this game if I'm not mistaken. But losing Jaden Nelson, that will be a really big blow considering how good of a start he has this season for the Whitecaps. De La Rosa would then hits it right to Bomer as that was the game first shot. So Isaac Bomer gets the chance in this game, which is kind of surprising because I thought in a big game like this you would expect Taco the number one goalkeeper to be in this game. But I gotta say, Bomer actually did pretty well in this game. Nagando then puts it way wide from long range, as that was really the first opportunity the Whitecaps has had. There's no doubt the Whitecaps were starting to get into this game, and they were looking more threatening on the direct ball. That's kind of what they were going to do throughout this game. They're going to try to catch Rayados on the counter attack while not having a lot of possession. But what kind of turns out is that they started to actually get possession as the game goes along. Nagando then had a shot that was deflected and goes wide before Torres would hits it right to Bomer. As Rayado started to put some pressure on this Whitecaps back line, and then in the 26th minute, that pressure was paid off as De La Rosa would score from Aguirre to give the visitor a 1-0 lead. And the Whitecaps feel like that should have been offside. And I gotta say, I didn't really see a good replay of this. I feel like that probably should have been offside. And this might be just me being biased as an MLS sickos, but I do feel like that was very close to a point where I'm surprised they didn't even look back to see whether or not if it's offside or not. I mean, compared to this and what we're about to talk about how in this game where they took so long to look at an offside side call, feel like in this moment they probably should have looked at it. And judging by how MLS team seems to be CONCACAF because of bad decision, I have a feeling maybe the Whitecaps got CONCACAF in this situation. Veselinovic did look to answer, but he puts it wide in the 35th minute before Galwood puts it wide from close in the 36th minute as the Whitecaps was pressing hard to get the equalizer. Andrada then denied goal on the doorstep of goal. Goal was having a great game in this one. He is going to be a guy that I think could be a huge factor for the Whitecaps heading into the second leg, and as always the case, because tell you what, he has had a heck of a start of the season. Ryan Goen, he's a guy that has really proved a lot of doubter, including myself, wrong that this team probably is not going to finish dead last in the Western Conference. But we do head to halftime with Monterrey with a 1-0 lead. In the second half, Ariado would pulls it wide from long range before Gall would skies it high from close. So as good as Gall was in this game, he missed a lot of chances himself as well. And I know he's more of a creative player, but he can score goals as well. Well, your typical number 10 that is. But there was no doubt the Whitecaps start off well and they were pressing for the equalizer. Gall then have an overhead kick that just goes wide in the 59th minute before Andrada would deny White on the doorstep of goal. And I mean, road looked like the Whitecaps are having the same problem that they had against Saprissa. They're getting golden opportunity left and right by this Rayado side, but they just could not capitalize. Ball would then blast it way wide from long range, and then he puts it high from close in the 69th minute. And again, the Whitecaps, they were just pounding on the door. But it's got to be very frustrating. Even myself, seeing how many chances the Whitecaps has had, and yet they just have nothing to show for it because once again, just like the game against Saprissa at home, finishing was pretty much not a factor. But in the 86th minute, they finally got their deserved goal, and it's an unlikely source too, as Habuni would score his first career goal for the Whitecaps from Ryan Gall to tie the game up at one apiece. Vite then looked for another and looked to give the lead for the Whitecaps, but he missed wide as the flag went up, so that wouldn't have counted even if it went in. And there was no doubt that the Whitecaps were not satisfied with just an equalizer. They were pressing hard for the winner. Veselinovic had a chance to do so, but he hits it wide there. And in the end, the Whitecaps, they had a lot of chances in this game. They couldn't get the result that they needed and get an advantage heading back to Mexico. It's a 1-1 draw in this one, and the shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 7 that the Whitecaps had. 6 shots on goal for the 2 that Rayados had. 2 shots on target for the 5 that the Whitecaps had. 3 shots on blocked for the 6 that the Whitecaps had. And possession-wise, 66% possession compared to 34% possession that Rayados has in this game. And as I said, with Seattle, just as well as the Whitecaps have played in this one, as much as I want to get some hope that the Whitecaps can maybe pull off a stunner down in Mexico. We've seen this before, where MLS team played very well against the Liga MX side at home, and it just kind of almost like it's a complete different story heading into the second leg, especially when you see the MLS team not capitalizing a chance to get a first leg lead heading into the second leg, because I have a feeling Rayados is not going to look like this poor when they're playing at home. They're going to look much better, as it usually is the case when they face against an MLS opponent. And for the Whitecaps, again, they're kind of the same situation as the Sounders. They're not out of it, but they do have a more impossible task. And I would say that if I compare to both of those teams, which team I give more shots heading down to Mexico to get the result. I mean, I'm sorry, Whitecaps fan, but I have to say the Sounders are probably going to be the case, mainly because again, the, playing down in Monterrey and playing against this Rayados team on the road, unless your name is not the Columbus Crew, there is no team that is able to get a result against Rayados on the road. And yeah, the Whitecaps will have to repeat what they did the last week, or repeat what they did this game, and also what Columbus did year against Rados, because other than that, yeah, it seems like this is going to be an exit for the Whitecaps in this CONCACAF Champions Cup, and they'll definitely look back at this game as a big missed opportunity if they don't move on into the next round, especially by a goal or two margin heading into the next round. But finally, moving on into the last game that we're going to talk about involving MLS team in this round of 16 first leg is Inter Miami and Cavalier. And don't let the scoreline fool you, the fact that, yeah, this was scary for Inter Miami. I mean, this was a game where everybody thought that Inter Miami should walk their way to a victory, which, in the end, again, the scoreline maybe says that. But let's be honest. I mean, this was kind of scary at times where Cavalier really pushed Miami on the brinks, and they even scored a goal in this one as well. That was disallowed. That was maybe a little bit controversial as well, and especially I'm pretty sure all the Inter Miami haters are gonna be coming out by saying that once again VAR kind of rescued them in this game, and that because they have a lot of former Barcelona player, everybody's gonna create conspiracy of the fact that yeah, it seems like VAR and the referee are once again favoring former Barcelona or Barcelona again indirectly here. But at the end of the day, the good news for Miami is that this is a team that even when they're not at their best, they find a way to win the game, and that's exactly what they did. And really, they kind of wear it out Cavalier as the game goes along, and in the end gets a pretty good position heading into the second leg down in Kingston with a 2-0 advantage. Now, early on, it's important to mention no Messi for the second consecutive game, which is kind of a bit of a surprise because I thought the last game against the Dynamo, that was probably the game that he rests just to prepare for this game. And I'm now pretty sure that a lot of Dynamo fans are going to be very upset, or even a lot of fans that went to that game in Houston is going to be very upset. The fact that, well, the whole reason why Messi didn't show up in that game is because they're preparing for this midweek game. What do you mean he did not play in this midweek game whatsoever? Now, most likely, I think he should be available in the upcoming game against Charlotte. But again, this is the thing that as much as fans are going to be very upset about, I think at the end of the day, that's just kind of the reality with Inter Miami, and especially with how Javier Mascherano is going to try to rest the squad, because we know that a lot of these players, especially a lot of these older players, they can't go from game in and game out. And Messi, of course, is the golden goose of this team. You do not want to risk him with injury. You're gonna have to try to take care of him as much as possible. And in a game like that, where you're thinking after the 4-1 drumming that you gave to the Dynamo, you think maybe you can get away with outplaying Messi and you still get a result. Well, Inter Miami definitely found out the hard way, at least for majority of the game, because the first shot of the game sees Stern blast one all the way back to Jamaica. There was no doubt that Miami had a lot of possession, but that kind of plays right into the favor of Cavalier, because Cavalier is a team that is a very speedy team. Not surprising with the way that Jamaican teams are always have some very speedy players, that is, and they look very dangerous on the counter, especially on the flank area as well. There was a huge shout for a penalty for Miami that was not given, and then Calvin Wood puts it wide from long range in the 16th minute, as Miami has had some issue in terms of maintaining the speed and transition that Cavalier has. And this is where I think if there is one big advantage that Cavalier will have in this game, it's got to be the speed. I mean, with a lot of these older player on Inter Miami that we saw in the beginning, they just cannot keep up with the speed that these Cavalier players can display. And I wonder if this might be blueprint for MLS team, where if you can be able to go on the transition, and if you have some speedy player that can go behind this Miami defense, there's a chance that you can actually score against this team. Now, obviously, not every MLS team is going to have these kind of speedy kind of player, but this might be a good blueprint to see how Inter Miami can be vulnerable at the back, especially like I said, the problem with these older players not able to keep up with these young kids of Cavalier was a real issue for this team. But despite the fact that the defense were having problems, the attack was also having problems too. I mean, the attack just looked so slow and toothless. Guys like Segovia, who played very well in the Louis and Alanda as well, they look like a shell of their old self in this game. I mean, there was a lot of missed touches, just very unlike Inter Miami compared to what we saw in the beginning of the season. And the shots, in fact, was only 2-0 for Cavalier early in this game. Miami didn't had a shot in this game until the 35th minute. In the 20th minute, Calvin would put it wide on an outstretched leg, and that was a dangerous ball that was delivered by Cavalier. Calvin almost poked it in, and then he had a cross that was deflected and struck the post as well. And there's no doubt that Miami was playing with a lot of fire at the back because Cavalier they came to play. They definitely ignored the script that they're gonna get rolled over in this one, and this is where Miami got to be careful because if they don't respect their opponent, especially this defense, don't score things up, they're gonna get burned because of all the fire that they're playing at the back. Alanda then puts it high as that was the game's first shot for Miami in the 35th minute. But then, right at the stroke of halftime, eventually, of all the pressure that Cavalier put in the first half, it paid off. As Stern would put the ball into the back of net to give Cavalier a 1-0 lead. Or did he? Because they did go to VAR to see whether or not if there was an offside on the development play. And I gotta say, this was probably the longest VAR review I ever seen. I mean, it took 8 minutes for them to look at VAR. It took like 4 minutes for the ref to let VAR decide whether or not if it's offside or not, and then it took another 4 minutes of him going to the monitor to see that. So yeah, that's your typical CONCACAF CONCACAF kind of level of nonsense that is going on. But after 8 minutes of VAR, look, they said the goal was disallowed, and I think it is the right call. I mean, I know some people will not like the call. Remember the rule where you don't really need to touch the ball if you're in offside side position to or you don't have to touch the ball and on a direct play and the goal would be deemed as offside as long as you're in the vicinity of it, and if you're basically attack involving on the attack as what we saw in this play by one of the Cavalier players that clearly jumped up and tried to hit the ball and he was in an offside position, it's going to be called offside all the time. No, I will say it was very close. I think the reason why maybe they took very long is it was just they were looking at all the lines and also just making sure if maybe one of the Cavalier player that was in an offside position, maybe his left hand was just in an offside position because again, it was almost getting to a Premier League level kind of VAR look that I started to see with this VAR call. But nevertheless, I think they did get the call right. But Inter Miami dodged a huge bullet in this one because going down 1-0 at home is bad enough, but to do that right on the stroke of halftime, like that would absolutely break this Inter Miami team heading into the second half. But instead, we do head to halftime with the score scoreless, and you're thinking, would that go chopped off? Would that really break the spirit of Cavalier? Well, not really, because Rigetti then puts one into the side netting. Miami once again had more of the possession, but just like the first half, in the final third, it just all breaks down, and Cavalier continued to push forward, showing that fearless kind of mentality. Segovia would then puts it high from long range. Stin would then hits it right to Ustavi in the 59th minute. Miami still have no answer in terms of dealing with those flank attack that Cavalier has. Every time when Cavalier go on the flank area, there's just boatloads of space for them to go on the attacking end. But then in the 61st minute, Inter Miami finally got the breakthrough and really kind of against the run play too because Cavalier had all the momentum up to this point, but Alande would score from Busquets to make it 1-0 in favor of Miami, and the Cavalier says that ball actually went out as it was dinked back into the box, and I gotta say it was very very close. It might have actually gone out of play too. They didn't really well. They did look at VAR for a bit to see whether if indeed the ball did went out. They said that they didn't. They didn't show like a replay of that, which again that does not really help the Miami haters fueling the fact that oh yeah, looks like Miami got a call goes in their favorite, and they're not gonna return even look at that too closely because yeah, they really want Inter Miami to win and get the benefit of all the call. But nevertheless, it was a 1-0 lead for Inter Miami, and not satisfied with one. Miami was pushing to try to get the second goal. Alande would then hits it right to Barclay. There was a shout for a penalty for Cavalier not given, but then in the 83rd minute, Miami make it 2-0 as Luis Suarez would score here, and it came off a bad turnover from Cavalier as well. And really, as the game goes along, you can definitely see the fatigue factor of this Cavalier team. They were started to become a little fatigued. Miami, to their credit, even though they weren't at their best in this game, at least they really wear down this Cavalier team with all the possession that they were getting, and eventually with all this chasing that this Cavalier team has, you start to see that their defensive shape started to become wobbly, and there you go. They commit a bad turnover there, which is something you just simply can't do when you're facing against Inter Miami. And just like that, Inter Miami were leading 2-0. Could have been 3-0 if Ruiz would put this one on target in the 86th minute, but he puts that one high. But in the end, Inter Miami, I mean, it was not pretty whatsoever. I mean, this was probably one of their uglier 2-0 wins that they had, but they'll take it. Gets the advantage heading into the second leg, and now we'll see how many minutes will Messi play in that second leg. I mean, I'm assuming he's gonna play because not only heading in that second leg, it's supposed to be a sellout crowd at that stadium. I mean, that stadium has been kind of sold out for weeks in advance as well. But I'm pretty sure that Jamaican crowd not only are looking forward to see what their hometown team can do against the likes of Inter Miami, but they're definitely there to see the GOAT himself as well. Shots in this one, 11 shots for the 6 that Cavalier has, 1 shots on York for the 6 that Miami has, 3 shots off target for the 5 that Cavalier has, no shots that was blocked for the 1 that Miami has, and possession-wise, 69% possession compared to the 31% possession that Cavalier has in this game. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all 4 of these games. Like I said, it was almost a disaster kind of first leg for all of these MLS team, and there's no doubt that these MLS team they have all to play for heading into the second leg, and we'll see whether or not if these MLS team facing against the Yankees opponent can get the result down in Mexico, which is something that, as I said, it has not happened very often. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.